Darkness. The void swallowed every star like a black tide. Then, a sudden ripple, a flash of light sharper than a supernova, and then a scream swallowed by the vacuum. The great hospital ship Mercy, a floating sanctuary marked with symbols of peace, was gone. No warning, no chance. Just silence. Long pause. Months before the silence, Earth was still holding its breath. Commander Rourke stared out at the endless sky from the bridge of the Vindicator, her hands resting lightly on the polished steel console. She had served in countless battles, seen entire star systems burn. But this was different. Her voice barely above a whisper, she said, "We thought the galaxy was changing. That peace might finally have a chance." Behind her, the bridge crew exchanged uneasy looks. Suddenly, the comm panel chimed. The calm, measured voice of the Galactic Council filled the room. "Commander Rourke, the hospital ship Mercy has been attacked. Casualties unknown. We urge restraint as investigations proceed." Rourke's fists clenched. Her mind raced. Casualties unknown was a phrase carefully chosen. A phrase designed to withhold truth. Pause. Her voice was steady, but cold as ice. "What about survivors?" The Council's voice paused. Then, unconfirmed. Cut to Earth. In the war room beneath the surface, General Kane stood surrounded by dozens of analysts and officers, faces pale with shock. They replayed the live feed over and over. The Mercy, a ship that carried children, doctors, wounded soldiers, refugees, reduced to a twisted ruin drifting in space. "They targeted a hospital ship," Kane said, voice low but filled with fury. "A place marked by the universal symbol of mercy." Someone whispered, "It's a war crime." Kane's eyes burned. "It's a declaration." Pause. He stepped forward, voice rising. "We do not respond with empty words." He turned to his staff. "We will find those responsible, and we will make them pay." The room erupted in murmurs of agreement. Flashback. Rourke remembered the moment she first boarded the Mercy. It was a mission of peace. Doctors from Earth, alien refugees seeking shelter, children laughing in corridors filled with light. She had thought, maybe for the first time, that humans and aliens might find a way to coexist. But that hope died with the explosion. Back to present, the Vindicator's engines hummed with cold power. Rourke's voice was calm but fierce. "They thought we'd crumble, that we'd plead for mercy." She turned to her tactical officer, Kale. "Prepare the fleet. Set coordinates for the attack vector. We're not just going to respond. We're going to make sure the galaxy never forgets what happens when you strike at our mercy." Kale nodded. "Weapons ready, Commander." Pause. Earth's fleet emerged from slipspace like a storm unleashed. The black ships gleamed under distant stars, weapons humming with deadly promise. No announcements, no ultimatums, only purpose. To protect what was theirs. To answer the bombing of a hospital ship. Cut to survivors. On a battered refugee station, children huddled in corners, eyes wide with terror. A little girl clutched a worn teddy bear, her face stained with tears. She whispered to no one in particular. "They said the Mercy would keep us safe." But safety was gone. The galaxy had changed, and so had humanity. Long pause. Rourke stood on the bridge, watching the stars as they approached the Dominion system, her voice low, filled with grim determination. "This is not just war. This is justice." The galaxy had underestimated Earth's wrath. They thought humans fragile, but humans protect their own, with every last breath. And when mercy is shattered, Earth brings the storm. The Mercy was more than a ship. She was a symbol, a beacon of hope in the dark vastness of space. When the Dominion bombed her, they struck at more than metal and flesh. They struck at Earth's heart. Commander Rourke felt that strike deep inside her chest. She stood on the bridge of the Vindicator, watching the coordinates blinking on the holomap. "Dominion space," Kale said quietly. "They expect us to back down." Rourke's jaw tightened. They don't understand who they're dealing with. The Vindicator's engines roared. The fleet prepared to jump. Behind her, the crew moved with calm efficiency. But beneath their discipline, the anger burned bright. On Earth, the public reaction was a storm of grief and rage. Families of the lost gathered in silent vigils. Children held up signs, "No more mercy for murderers." News anchors struggled to hold their composure as they told the story again and again. But Earth's leaders knew words were not enough. They had to act. Back in orbit, the fleet slipped into Dominion space like shadows. Silent, swift. Rourke's voice cut through the tension. "We're not here to negotiate." The Vindicator led the charge. Ahead lay the Dominion's main supply station, crucial to their war efforts. Destroying it would send a message loud and clear. Suddenly, the Dominion fleet appeared, ships of all sizes, armed to the teeth. They moved with practiced precision, confident in their numbers and firepower. But Earth had something else, something the Dominion had forgotten. Rourke's eyes flicked to the tactical readouts. Deploy the Stormbreakers. Small, fast, deadly fighters launched from the Vindicator, weaving through enemy fire like ghosts. Their pilots, Earth's finest, were not just soldiers. They were protectors, avengers. The battle erupted. Lasers cut through space. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers. Rourke's voice rose over the chaos. "Hold the line! Protect the fleet!" The Stormbreakers danced through enemy formations, disrupting command ships. In the thick of the fight, Cale's voice came sharp and clear. "Commander, targeting Dominion command cruiser." Rourke nodded. "Focus all fire. Take it down." The cruiser burned, systems failing one by one. The Dominion flagship exploded in a fireball that lit the void. But the battle was far from over. More ships poured in, more enemies to face. Amid the chaos, Rourke's thoughts turned to the survivors of the Mercy, the children who lost parents, the doctors who gave their lives. Earth fought not just for revenge, but for hope, for mercy, for a future where no one else would die in silence. Pause. The Dominion had underestimated humanity's will. They thought the bombing would break Earth's spirit. Instead, it forged a storm no one could stop. As the battle raged, Rourke's voice was steady, resolute. "This is our war now." Her eyes burned with fierce pride. "We will protect the innocent. And we will make sure no one forgets what happens when you attack a hospital ship." Long pause. The galaxy held its breath. Earth was no longer the wounded. Earth was the storm. The stars blurred past. Humanity's fleet surged deeper into Dominion space. Behind them, ash and wreckage. Ahead, vengeance. And something more. Not conquest, not glory. Balance. Because when the innocent are struck down, when healers are turned to corpses, justice becomes an obligation. On board the Dominion Capital Station, alarms blared. Red lights pulsed through sterile corridors as officers shouted in every tongue of the Council worlds. Multiple human battle groups inbound. Sector 4. 2 more just warped into orbit. They're surrounding us. The supreme strategist of the Dominion stood still in the chaos, disbelief etched across her reptilian features. "They were supposed to beg," she hissed. "They were supposed to plead for peace." But Earth didn't beg, and Earth never forgets. Back aboard the Vindicator, Cale read aloud the intercepted transmission. "They called us soft, said humanity clings to its doctors and orphans like weakness." Rourke's eyes didn't waver. "Then let them see the strength of our love." She turned to the helmsman. "Ready the storm drop." A hush fell across the bridge. Every officer froze for a heartbeat. Even in a war fleet, storm drop was sacred. It meant unleashing the Terran Drop Corps, soldiers who trained in the stratosphere, who fell from orbit in armor hotter than hell. When they land, nothing survives. Far above the Dominion capital, the Earth fleet moved into final formation. The Dominion hailed them on every emergency frequency, panicked, desperate. "This is a neutral sector. You're violating multiple accords. You'll spark a war that will consume the stars." But Earth said nothing. No speeches, no threats, only silence. Then, the drop doors opened and the sky began to fall. The Terran Drop Corps came in fast, black pods tearing through the atmosphere like vengeful meteors, hundreds, thousands, trailing blue fire behind them, each one a soldier clad in living steel, each one trained to walk through hell and keep going. Civilians on the ground looked up in terror. Some prayed, some ran, some simply stood in stunned silence, watching the sky bleed flame. General Kane watched the feed from Earth's command center. Visual confirmed, drop complete. He glanced at the silent observers behind him, ambassadors, officials, alien envoys watching with bated breath. This is our answer, he said, not just to the Mercy, but to every world that thought we were weak. On the ground, the Dominion forces opened fire, but it didn't matter. The storm had already landed. Terran soldiers poured from the drop pods like ghosts, moving with ruthless precision. They didn't kill indiscriminately. They moved with purpose, only targets tied to the bombing, only the ones who gave the order or obeyed it. Rourke's voice came through each helmet's communication. No hospitals, no schools, we are not them. We remember the Mercy. Inside the enemy war room, the Supreme Strategist stumbled back as the doors exploded inward. Through the smoke walked a single Terran soldier, his armor scorched, visor glowing. Without a word, he raised a small hologram. It was the Mercy, floating in peace, before the blast. Then the explosion, the screams, the aftermath. He let her watch it all. Then, he turned and walked away, leaving her to live with what she'd done. Pause. Hours later, the fighting ceased. Dominion command centers were dust. Every key perpetrator tied to the bombing, gone. And yet, every hospital still stood. Every unarmed ship untouched, because Earth had come for justice, not vengeance. Across the galaxy, planets tuned in to the broadcast. Feed Earth released, it showed the Mercy, the children, the healers, the moment it was bombed, and then the drop, the storm, and silence. But in that silence, something changed. The galaxy understood. Earth was not to be pitied, not to be mocked, not to be provoked. They protect their own. And if you strike at their mercy, they bring the storm. 1 week later, the Dominion War Council lay in shambles. What was left of their leadership now huddled in shadowed chambers, silent and hollow-eyed. They had expected retaliation, yes, a scolding, sanctions, demands. But not this. Not the precision. Not the fire. Not the silence that followed. Earth hadn't invaded. Earth had judged and carried out sentence like a scalpel to the throat. In a distant system, a Dominion admiral, one who had opposed the bombing of the Mercy, stood watching a human relief vessel dock in orbit. Its name was Solace. He blinked. Couldn't believe it. They returned. To offer help? From the hangar ramp, a small girl walked out first. A survivor of the Mercy. Barely 8 years old. She held the hand of a Terran medic. Behind her came doctors, engineers, people, real people. The ones who had lost their own, yet still brought aid to their enemies wounded. Because Earth does not conquer. It remembers. It builds. It brings storms when needed, and healing when it's over. Back on Earth, Commander Rourke stood before a global memorial. The names of every soul lost aboard the Mercy were etched into silver stone. Beneath the names were flowers, toys, letters from children. Soldiers kneeled in silence. One of them whispered, "We didn't fight for revenge." Another replied, "We fought to make sure they were never forgotten." A small crowd gathered to hear Rourke speak. Her voice was quiet but steady. "When they bombed our hospital ship, they thought we'd break." Her eyes scanned the faces, old, young, grieving, proud. But Earth doesn't break. We burn, we rise, and we return, stronger than ever. She stepped aside, and the lights of the memorial rose upward into the sky, one for each life lost, glowing like stars reborn. Somewhere far from Earth, the Supreme Strategist sat in silence, watching that broadcast on a hidden channel. She had escaped the fire, but not the guilt, not the weight of what she had unleashed. No speech could rewrite what had happened. No power could erase the storm Earth had become. Back in orbit, the Vindicator prepared for its next assignment. Not a battle, but a diplomatic escort. Earth's message was clear now. They didn't seek war. They sought peace strong enough to defend itself. Inside her quarters, Rourke stood at the viewport. Kale entered quietly, carrying a datapad. Reports from the Rim. Dominion fleets retreating. She nodded. Good. Let them go. Let them remember. He hesitated. What do we tell the next ones? The ones who think they can try us again? Rourke turned, her eyes steel. We don't have to say a word. They saw. They all saw. In the archives of the Galactic Council, the footage of the bombing was placed beside the record of Earth's response. It was labeled simply, "The Day Earth Brought the Storm," and below it, an inscription in Terran Standard, "We offer peace, we defend the innocent. But if you strike our healers, if you kill our children, we will rain down justice until the stars remember." In the hearts of the galaxy's people, a new kind of fear took root, not of Earth's weapons, but of Earth's memory, of its unity, of the unbearable force of a species that fights not for domination, but for love.